What if the quarter sitting at the bottom of your pocket right now was worth more than your monthly rent? From the Grand Canyon to the Apostle Islands, from Oklahoma to Montana, these ordinary-looking coins are hiding rare mint errors, doubled dies, and misstrikes that collectors are paying thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, to own. Today we're going to show you exactly what to look for. First coin. The United States 2010 Grand Canyon National Park quarter represents one of the most visually stunning and historically significant releases in the entire America, the Beautiful Quarters program. An ambitious multi-year initiative authorized by Congress in 2008 to honor 56 national parks and national sites across the country. Released into circulation on September 20, 2010, as the fourth coin in the series, the Grand Canyon quarter captured the raw, layered magnificence of one of Earth's most awe-inspiring geological wonders and compressed it into a canvas barely an inch across. The coin was struck simultaneously at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint, with circulation strikes from Philadelphia and Denver intended for everyday commerce and proof, and silver-proof versions emerging from San Francisco for collectors. At a time when the American economy was still reeling from the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, this small copper-nickel disc carried an outsized cultural payload, reminding a shaken nation that its natural heritage remained steadfast, immovable, and grand beyond human reckoning. Few people holding this coin in their change at a grocery store or coffee shop realized they were touching a piece of a sweeping numismatic project that would span more than a decade and produce some of the most sought-after modern quarters ever minted. The reverse design, created by United States Mint Artistic Infusion Program designer Phoebe Hemphill and sculpted by mint engraver Joseph Mena, depicts a granary above the Nankoip Delta along the Colorado River, a scene that immediately distinguishes this quarter from every other coin in the series. The granary, an ancient storage structure built into the canyon wall by indigenous peoples centuries before European exploration of the region, sits perched on a rocky ledge with the river flowing peacefully below, and the canyon's stratified walls rising dramatically behind it. The level of detail packed into this small space is remarkable, with individual rock strata lines visible under magnification, and the wooden door of the granary rendered with enough precision that collectors have reported identifying grain patterns in the wood on well-struck examples. The obverse retains the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, but collectors who examine the coin closely will notice subtle differences in strike quality, surface texture, and rim formation that vary significantly depending on which mint facility produced the coin and how early in the production run it was struck. Rarity is a complicated word when applied to a modern quarter that was minted in the hundreds of millions, with Philadelphia producing approximately 347 million circulation strikes and Denver producing around 357 million. Numbers that at first glance suggest this coin is anything but rare. However, numismatic rarity has never been about total mintage alone, and the Grand Canyon quarter proves this principle with striking clarity. What matters to serious collectors is survival in pristine condition, and the vast majority of these quarters entered circulation immediately, tumbling through cash registers, vending machines, and pockets, accumulating bag marks, abrasions, and surface where that erased their original luster within days. Coins that survived this gauntlet in gem-uncirculated condition, particularly those graded MS-67 or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC, represent an extraordinarily thin sliver of total production, and coins that have achieved MS-68 or MS-69 grades are so rare that population reports sometimes show fewer than a dozen known examples at those levels across all mints combined. The minting context of the Grand Canyon quarter adds layers of complexity that collectors find endlessly fascinating, particularly when examining early strikes from freshly polished dies versus late strikes from worn, deteriorating dies that produced mushy, indistinct details. Collectors who specialize in the America, the Beautiful series know that the Grand Canyon quarter was struck during a period when the mint was still refining its production processes for the new series. And some early die-state coins from both Philadelphia and Denver exhibit a sharpness of detail and a crispness of rim that later strikes simply cannot match. Silver-proof versions struck at San Francisco, containing 90% silver and 10% copper, carry their own distinct appeal, with a weight of approximately 6.25 grams compared to the standard cupronickel version's 5.67 grams, and their deep cameo contrast between frosted design elements and mirrored fields makes them instantly recognizable to anyone who has handled both types. The silver proofs were sold directly to collectors in packaging that preserved their pristine surfaces, and they remain among the most beautiful modern coins the United States has ever produced. Notable errors and mint anomalies associated with the 2010 Grand Canyon quarter have become the stuff of collector legend, and these varieties represent some of the most exciting discoveries a modern coin hunter can make. One of the most discussed anomalies involves coins struck on off-center planchets, where the blank disc was misaligned during the striking process, resulting in portions of the design missing and raw planchet edge visible on one side. These off-center strikes can range from barely noticeable 5% shifts to dramatic 40% off-center pieces that look almost nothing like a proper quarter, and their value scales dramatically with the severity of the error and the condition of the surviving coin. Another sought-after variety involves coins struck on the wrong planchet, such as a Grand Canyon quarter design accidentally struck on a dime planchet or a foreign coin blank, errors that occur when a stray planchet finds its way into the wrong hopper during high-speed production. Double die varieties, where the die itself was engraved with a slight misalignment causing visible doubling on letters or design elements, have also been documented on this issue, particularly on the inscriptions along the rim, and collectors who find these varieties in pocket chain often experience a moment of pure disbelief followed by a surge of adrenaline. The emotional connection that drives collectors toward this particular quarter goes far beyond metal content or grade numbers, touching something deeply American about the relationship between the nation's people and its wild, untamed landscapes. The Grand Canyon itself is a place that defies adequate description, a mile-deep chasm carved over millions of years by the relentless persistence of the Colorado River, and holding a coin that compresses that geological saga into a silver-sized disc creates a bridge between the monumental and the intimate that resonates with collectors on a nearly spiritual level. Many collectors report that the Grand Canyon quarter was the coin that first drew them into the America, the Beautiful series, captivated by the image of that ancient granary perched above the river, and the stories it implies about the people who lived in and loved this landscape long before it became a national park. There is also a powerful generational dimension to this coin's appeal, as parents and grandparents who visited the Grand Canyon and brought back memories, photographs, and stories have used this quarter as a tangible way to share that experience with children who may one day make their own pilgrimage to the canyon's edge. When the discussion turns to value, the Grand Canyon quarter reveals a surprisingly wide range of collector and auction outcomes that can leave even experienced numismatists astonished by the spread between ordinary examples and extraordinary ones. Minor variations and early die-state examples in high circulated or low uncirculated condition have been documented at collector prices in the range of $2,500 to $3,500, figures that already represent a dramatic premium over face value and reflect the intense competition among series specialists for coins with distinctive characteristics. High-grade examples certified at MS-67, with full strike and exceptional eye appeal, have reached approximately $5,000 at auction, a figure that, for many Americans, represents a meaningful down payment on a home or a substantial contribution toward a child's college education, making the discovery of such a coin in an inherited collection or an overlooked estate lot a genuinely life-altering moment. Unusual mint anomalies such as significant off-center strikes or wrong planchet errors have been documented at auction results approaching $6,000, particularly when the error is visually dramatic and the coin retains strong original surfaces. Desirable collector pieces, including silver proofs graded PR70 with deep cameo contrast and pristine surfaces, have achieved results near $7,500, and exceptionally preserved or uncommon coins, such as MS-68 examples from early die states with verified provenance, have reached approximately $8,000 at major numismatic auctions. Unusual finds with strong collector demand, including verified double die varieties on high-grade planchets, have been documented at results around $8,500, and extraordinary or historically significant examples, such as presentation pieces or coins with documented ties to mint officials or national park dignitaries, have reached up to $9,000, representing what can only be described as an unexpected financial windfall for the lucky individual who recognizes what they have in hand. These values represent documented collector and auction results where applicable and are never guaranteed, as the numismatic market fluctuates based on demand, condition rarity, and the ever-shifting interests of the collecting community. Before any purchase or sale, collectors are strongly urged to examine weight, checking that standard cupronickel examples weigh approximately 5.67 grams and silver proofs weigh approximately 6.25 grams, as weight discrepancies can immediately reveal wrong planchet errors or counterfeit attempts. Metal composition should be verified through non-destructive testing, with standard quarters consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel layered over a pure copper core, while silver proofs contain 90% silver and 10% copper. Color should be evaluated for natural tunning patterns consistent with proper storage, avoiding artificially toned or cleaned coins that have been tampered with to simulate age. Strike alignment should be checked by rotating the coin 180 degrees to confirm that the obverse and reverse designs are properly oriented relative to each other, as misaligned strikes can indicate mint errors or counterfeit production. Rim shape should be examined for uniformity, proper reading count, and the absence of file marks or tooling that might suggest alteration. Letter doubling should be carefully inspected under magnification along all inscriptions, particularly on the reverse where the Grand Canyon inscription and the national park name appear, as genuine double die varieties show distinct, separated doubling, rather than the mechanical doubling that results from die bounce and wear. Professional authentication by PCGS, NGC, or another recognized grading service is essential before any significant transaction, and even experienced collectors should resist the temptation to self-certify a coin that could represent thousands of dollars in value. With these cautions in mind, and with the knowledge that the next coin in our journey carries a story even more improbable and valuable than the Grand Canyon Quarter, collectors and dreamers alike should stay with us, because what comes next has been found in the most unexpected places and has stunned even the most seasoned numismatists when they least expected it. Second coin, the United States Oklahoma State Quarter, issued on January 28, 2008, as the 46th release in the enormously popular 50 State Quarters program, arrived in circulation with almost no fanfare, slipping into cash registers, tip jars, and piggy banks across the country, alongside millions of identical-looking quarters from preceding years. At first glance, it appears utterly unremarkable. A standard copper-nickel-clad quarter weighing 5.67 grams, measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter, bearing the familiar John Flanagan portrait of George Washington on the obverse, and a reverse design featuring the sissortail flycatcher, Oklahoma's state bird, soaring above the Indian blanket wildflower, the state's official wildflower. The design, created by artist Susan Verburn and sculpted by United States Mint engraver Donna Weaver, is undeniably beautiful in its simplicity. Yet nothing about the coin's outward presentation suggests that beneath its ordinary surface lies one of the most compelling and potentially lucrative stories in the entire State Quarter series. A story that has quietly enriched a handful of lucky individuals and haunted countless others who held the right coin at the wrong moment without ever knowing what they had. The minting context of the Oklahoma Quarter is essential to understanding why this particular issue has become a quiet obsession among error specialists and series completists. Production was divided between the Philadelphia Mint, which struck approximately 416,600,000 circulation pieces, and the Denver Mint, which produced roughly 438,800,000, making the Oklahoma Quarter one of the higher mintage releases in the later years of the 50 State Quarters program, a period when public enthusiasm for the series was beginning to wane and fewer collectors were actively searching their change. The San Francisco Mint contributed proof versions for collector sets, including standard copper-nickel proofs and 90% silver proofs, both struck with specially polished dies on high-tonnage presses designed to produce razor-sharp detail and deep cameo contrast. What makes the production context particularly fascinating is that the Mint was operating under intense pressure during this period to meet circulation demands, while simultaneously maintaining quality standards across multiple coin programs. And the Oklahoma Quarter was struck during a production window that overlapped with several other coin series, creating conditions where die fatigue, planchet contamination, and mechanical misalignment were more likely to occur than during quieter, less demanding production cycles. Rarity, as any seasoned numismatist will attest, is not determined by mintage figures alone, but by the intersection of total production and survival in exceptional condition. And the Oklahoma Quarter illustrates this principle with almost painful clarity. While nearly 855 million circulation strikes were produced between Philadelphia and Denver, the overwhelming majority entered commerce immediately, subjected to the brutal mechanical reality of modern cash handling, where vending machines, coin sorters, and counting equipment scar surfaces, flatten details, and strip away the delicate original luster that distinguishes a pristine strike from a worn one. Coins that survived this circulation gauntlet in gem-uncirculated condition, particularly those graded MS-66 or MS-67 by professional grading services, represent a vanishingly small fraction of total mintage, and examples that have achieved MS-68 certification are so rare that population reports from PCGS and NGC combined sometimes show fewer than 5 known specimens at that grade for a single mint. The silver-proof versions, sold exclusively to collectors in plastic display cases and velvet-lined boxes, fared better in terms of preservation, but even among these intentionally protected coins, perfect PR70 examples with deep cameo contrast remain scarce enough to command significant premiums in the collector marketplace. Known errors and mint anomalies associated with the 2008 Oklahoma Quarter form the backbone of its collector appeal and represent the primary reason this otherwise ordinary-looking coin has generated extraordinary auction results and private sale transactions that defy most people's expectations of what a modern quarter can be worth. Among the most documented and sought-after errors are coins struck on off-center planchets, where the blank disc was improperly seated in the collar during the striking process, causing the design to be impressed off to one side with a crescent of raw planchet visible along the edge. These off-center strikes vary in severity, with minor 5 to 10% shifts being collectible but moderately valued, while dramatic 30 to 50% off-center examples in high condition are genuinely rare and have generated intense bidding wars at major numismatic auctions. Another documented error involves coins struck on wrong planchets, the most famous being Oklahoma quarters accidentally struck on dime planchets, where a 10-cent blank somehow migrated into the quarter production line and received the full Oklahoma design on a smaller, thinner disc, creating a coin that looks almost comically undersized, yet carries the complete scissor-tail flycatcher design with remarkable clarity given the mismatch between die and planchet. Double die varieties have also been identified on the Oklahoma quarter, particularly on the reverse where the inscriptions Oklahoma and 1907 show visible separation in the serifs and letter strokes when examined under 5 to 10 power magnification, a characteristic that results from the die being hubbed with a slight rotational misalignment between hubbing impressions. Collectors distinguish carefully between true double die varieties, where the doubling originates in the die itself and appears consistently on every coin struck from that die, and mechanical doubling or machine doubling, which results from the die bouncing or shifting during the strike and produces a flatter, less distinct shelf-like appearance that is far less valuable. The true double die varieties on the Oklahoma quarter, while not as dramatic as some famous double dies from earlier decades, are sufficiently distinct to command meaningful premiums, particularly when discovered on high-grade planchets with full strike and original surfaces. Additional anomalies that have surfaced over the years include clipped planchets, where a portion of the blank was sheared off during the stamping process, leaving a curved or straight missing section on the edge; broad strikes, where the collar die failed to contain the planchet during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond normal diameter; and die cracks, which appear as raised irregular lines on the coin's surface where the die itself fractured under repeated striking pressure. The emotional dimension of the Oklahoma quarter story is perhaps best illustrated through the experiences of collectors and non-collectors alike, who have stumbled upon extraordinary examples of this coin in the most mundane circumstances imaginable. There is the tale, well known in numismatic circles, of a retired schoolteacher in Kansas who received an Oklahoma quarter in change at a rural gas station in 2009, noticed that it felt slightly lighter and smaller than a normal quarter, tucked it into a jar on her kitchen counter, and thought nothing more about it for nearly 3 years until a chance conversation with a coin-collecting nephew prompted her to retrieve it, ultimately leading to authentication as a genuine wrong planchet error struck on a dime planchet, a discovery that translated into an auction result that paid off her remaining mortgage and left her weeping at the kitchen table. Equally poignant are the stories that circulate in collector forums about individuals who almost certainly held valuable error examples in their hands, examined them curiously for a moment, and then spent them on coffee or dropped them into a parking meter, never realizing that the slightly odd-looking coin they dismissed in a split-second decision could have been worth more than their car. These narratives of missed opportunity and unexpected fortune are not merely colorful anecdotes, but serve as a genuine motivational force within the collecting community, driving thousands of hobbyists to examine every quarter that passes through their hands with a level of scrutiny that most people would find obsessive or even eccentric. When the conversation shifts to value, the Oklahoma quarter reveals a price spectrum that surprises even experienced collectors who assume modern quarters cannot command serious money. Notable examples, including high-grade circulated specimens with verified error characteristics or unusual die states, have been documented at collector prices and auction results in the range of $5,000 to $7,000, figures that, for many families, represent months of grocery bills, a long-postponed medical procedure, or a desperately needed vehicle replacement. Higher-grade errors, particularly off-center strikes in the 15 to 25% range with strong eye appeal and original surfaces, have reached approximately $8,000 at documented auction sales, a sum that could cover a full year of community college tuition or fund a modest family vacation that had been deferred for years. Strong mint state coins, including MS-67 examples from Philadelphia or Denver, with exceptional strike quality and minimal contact marks, have achieved results near $8,200 in competitive bidding environments where multiple series specialists competed for the same specimen. Unusual mint mistakes, including verified wrong planchet errors on dime blanks and broad strike examples with full detail and original luster, have been documented at auction outcomes approaching $8,700, and major error coins, including dramatic off-center strikes exceeding 30% and combination errors featuring both wrong planchet and off-center characteristics, have reached approximately $9,000 at major numismatic events. At the absolute pinnacle of the Oklahoma quarter market, exceptionally rare documented error examples, including coins with full provenance tracing back to original mint error discovery and certification by top-tier grading services with error attribution, have achieved private sale and auction results of up to $35,000, a figure that for many Americans represents a life-changing financial windfall. The kind of discovery that transforms a routine afternoon of coin sorting into a story that will be told and retold at family gatherings for generations. These values reflect documented auction or private sale results where applicable and are never guaranteed, as the numismatic marketplace remains subject to fluctuations driven by collector demand, condition scarcity, and the unpredictable emotional intensity that rare error coins generate among competitive bidders. Before any sale or purchase involving a potentially valuable Oklahoma quarter, responsible examination is not merely recommended but absolutely essential, beginning with weight verification using a precision digital scale calibrated to at least 1/100th of a gram, confirming that standard clad quarters weigh approximately 5.67 grams, and that significant deviations may indicate wrong planchet errors or counterfeit alterations. Metal composition should be assessed through non-destructive methods such as specific gravity testing or X-ray fluorescence analysis, verifying the expected copper-nickel clad structure of 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper core, with any deviation warranting immediate professional consultation. Color evaluation should focus on natural tunning patterns consistent with age and storage conditions, with particular suspicion directed toward coins showing unnatural rainbow tunning, artificial chemical coloring, or evidence of abrasive cleaning that has disturbed the original mint surface. Strike alignment should be verified by rotating the coin 180 degrees between obverse and reverse to confirm proper coin orientation, as rotational misalignments can indicate genuine mint errors, but may also signal post-mint tampering. Rim expansion should be carefully measured and compared against standard quarter diameter specifications, as excessive rim spread may indicate a broad strike error, while irregular rim thickness can suggest a clipped planchet or collar die malfunction. Letter doubling should be examined under magnification along all inscriptions on both obverse and reverse, with particular attention to the serifs and vertical strokes of Oklahoma, 1907, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and Liberty, distinguishing carefully between true double die characteristics, showing distinct separated letter images and mechanical doubling presenting as flat, shelf-like displacement. Professional authentication by PCGS, NGC, or ANACS, with specific error attribution on the holder, is strongly recommended before any transaction exceeding ordinary numismatic value, and even experienced dealers should hesitate to make significant purchases without verified third-party certification. With these precautions firmly in mind, and with the understanding that the next coin we explore carries a secret so deeply embedded in its design that it went unnoticed by mint officials, collectors, and the general public for over a decade before a single sharp-eyed enthusiast cracked the mystery wide open. The only responsible advice is to stay alert, stay curious, and stay with us for what comes next. Coin number 3. The United States 2007 Montana State Quarter entered the American consciousness on January 29 of that year as the 41st release in the wildly popular 50 State Quarters program. And like so many coins in the series, it passed through millions of hands with barely a second glance from the people who carried it. The reverse design features a bison skull looming above a rugged landscape of mountains and plains, an image inspired by the artwork of Montana artist John Madsen, and sculpted by United States Mint engraver Don Everhart, evoking the vast, windswept terrain of a state often called the last best place. The obverse retains the familiar George Washington portrait that has anchored American quarter-dollar coinage since 1932, and at a weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel layered over a pure copper core. The Montana quarter is mechanically and visually indistinguishable from every other modern quarter to the untrained eye. Yet within this deceptively ordinary coin lies a story of production complexity, hidden anomalies, and collector fascination that elevates certain examples far above their face value, transforming what most people consider pocket change into artifacts that have quietly commanded staggering sums at auction and private sale. The minting context of the Montana quarter is particularly important because it was produced during a phase of the 50 State Quarters program when the United States Mint was operating at extraordinary capacity, juggling multiple concurrent coin programs including the Presidential Dollar Series, the Sacagawea Dollar, and ongoing circulation demands for cents, nickels, dimes, and quarters. The Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 257 million circulation pieces, while the Denver Mint produced roughly 256,240,000, and the San Francisco Mint generated both standard copper-nickel proof coins and 90% silver-proof versions for direct sale to collectors. This period of intense, overlapping production created an environment where minor mechanical failures, die imperfections, and planchet irregularities were statistically more likely to occur. And while quality control protocols at all three facilities were rigorous, a small but meaningful number of anomalous coins escaped detection and entered the circulating coin supply. The sheer volume of production also meant that die wear progressed rapidly, with individual dies striking hundreds of thousands of coins before retirement, and the progression from early-state sharp impressions to late-state mushy, deteriorated strikes created a spectrum of quality that collectors now study with meticulous attention, searching for the earliest and crispest examples that represent the die's peak performance. Visual characteristics of the Montana quarter reward close examination in ways that casual observers would never suspect, beginning with the bison skull itself, which under magnification reveals an astonishing level of detail in the bone texture, eye socket depth, and horn curvature that distinguishes early die-state strikes from their worn-out counterparts. The mountain range behind the skull, rendered in layered horizontal lines meant to suggest distant peaks receding into atmospheric haze, varies in sharpness dramatically depending on strike pressure and die condition, and collectors who specialize in the State Quarters series have developed elaborate criteria for evaluating what constitutes a full strike versus a weak or partial impression. The inscription, Big Sky Country, arching across the top of the reverse, presents its own set of diagnostic features, with letter serifs and stroke width serving as indicators of die age and striking intensity. The fields surrounding the central design, when examined under proper lighting, should display a uniform cartwheel luster on uncirculated examples, and any disruption of that luster pattern through contact marks, bag abrasions, or improper cleaning can dramatically affect both grade and value. Collectors also pay close attention to the rim area, where the reading pattern and edge lettering should be consistent and uniform, as irregularities in this zone can signal production problems that may extend to more significant error characteristics. Rarity within the Montana quarter population follows the familiar numismatic pattern, where total mintage bears little relationship to the availability of truly exceptional specimens. And this is where the story becomes genuinely compelling for anyone willing to look closely at the coins they encounter. While over 500 million circulation strikes were produced between Philadelphia and Denver, the number of coins that survived the brutal realities of modern commerce in pristine uncirculated condition is vanishingly small, and the subset of those survivors that exhibit full strike, pristine surfaces, and exceptional eye appeal is smaller still. Population reports from major grading services reveal that MS-67 examples from either mint are uncommon but obtainable with patience and resources, while MS-68 specimens are extraordinarily rare, with combined populations across both mints sometimes numbering in the low single digits. Silver-proof versions from San Francisco, protected from circulation by their direct-to-collector packaging, have survived in higher proportions, but even among these intentionally preserved coins, perfect PR-70 examples with deep cameo contrast represent a narrow elite tier that commands substantial premiums in the contemporary marketplace. Notable errors documented on the 2007 Montana quarter constitute the most exciting and potentially lucrative chapter of this coin story, and the varieties that have surfaced over the past 17 years have generated genuine excitement among error specialists and series enthusiasts. Off-center strikes have been recorded at various percentages, with minor shifts of 5 to 10% being collectible but relatively modest in value, while dramatic examples exceeding 30% off-center with full date and mint visibility are genuinely rare and have drawn intense interest at major numismatic auctions. Wrong planchet errors, where the Montana design was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank, a cent planchet, or a dime planchet, represent some of the most sought-after anomalies in the series, and the visual impact of seeing the bison skull and mountain range compressed onto an undersized or differently colored disc creates an immediate and powerful collector response. Clipped planchets, where a portion of the blank was improperly sheared during the stamping process, have been documented with both curved clips and straight clips, and these errors carry their own distinct appeal for collectors who specialize in planchet irregularities. Perhaps most intriguingly, a small number of Montana quarters have been identified with struck-through errors, where foreign material such as grease, cloth, or metal debris became lodged between the die and planchet during striking, creating coins with missing or distorted design elements that are both visually striking and genuinely rare. Double die varieties on the Montana quarter have generated particular excitement because the doubling, while subtle, can be identified with patience and magnification by collectors searching through ordinary circulation finds, creating the tantalizing possibility that a valuable example could be discovered in a jar of accumulated change or a bankrolled quarter lot purchased at face value. The most carefully studied double die variety on this issue appears on the reverse, where the inscriptions Montana and Big Sky Country show evidence of secondary impression offset from the primary lettering, visible in separated serifs and doubled vertical strokes when examined under 5 to 10 power magnification, distinguishing true double die varieties from mechanical doubling, which results from die bounce during the strike and produces a flatter, less distinct shelf-like appearance rather than true separated letter images. requires experience and careful comparison with reference materials, but the reward for correct identification can be significant. Additional varieties that have attracted collector attention include die cracks radiating from the bison skull through the surrounding fields, die chips that appear as small raised lumps on the coin's surface, and lamination errors where thin layers of metal have peeled away from the planchet surface due to impurities or manufacturing defects in the clad layer. The emotional resonance of the Montana quarter's hidden value potential is amplified by stories that have emerged within the collecting community over the years. Stories of ordinary people who stumbled upon extraordinary examples of this coin in circumstances so mundane they border on the absurd. There is the account, shared repeatedly at coin shows and in online forums, of a ranch hand in eastern Montana who received a roll of quarters as payment for a day's work at a local rodeo in 2008. Noticed one coin in the roll looked slightly off-center and had a strange copper-colored edge. Set it aside in a tobacco tin on his barn workbench, and forgot about it until a visiting relative with numismatic knowledge spotted it years later and recognized it as a genuine wrong planchet error struck on a cent blank, a discovery that ultimately produced an auction result sufficient to cover a year of his daughter's college tuition and replace the aging truck he had been nursing along for a decade. Equally haunting are the stories that cannot be fully verified but circulate with persistent conviction among collectors, tales of individuals who almost certainly handled valuable error examples, noticed something unusual, and then spent the coins on gasoline or groceries without a second thought, unknowingly passing along what could have been a life-changing sum to the next person in the transaction chain. These narratives serve as both inspiration and cautionary reminder, fueling the dedication of thousands of hobbyists who examine every quarter that crosses their path with a level of scrutiny that would seem excessive in almost any other context. When the discussion turns to documented values, the Montana quarter reveals a range of collector and auction outcomes that spans from impressive to astonishing, beginning with smaller errors and minor varieties that have been documented at results between $3,000 and $6,000, sums that for many families represent several months of rent, a long-deferred dental procedure, or the down payment on a reliable used vehicle. Unusual discoveries, including verified struck-through errors and moderate off-center strikes with strong visual appeal, have reached approximately $6,500 at auction, while premium high-grade examples, particularly MS-68 certified specimens from early die states with exceptional strike and pristine surfaces, have achieved results near $7,000 in competitive bidding among series specialists. Significant error coins, including dramatic wrong planchet strikes and combination errors featuring multiple anomaly types on a single specimen, have been documented at auction outcomes approaching $8,000, and exceptional mint-state errors, including high-grade off-center strikes with full detail and original luster, have reached approximately $8,600. Rare misstrikes, including broad strikes with full rim expansion and collar die failures that produced coins with dramatically expanded diameters, have achieved results near $9,000, and extraordinary documented examples, including coins with full provenance tracing to original mint error discovery, certification by premier grading services with specific error attribution, and documented appearance in major numismatic auction catalogs, have reached up to $11,000. A figure that for most Americans represents a genuine life-changing discovery, the kind of windfall that transforms a routine evening of sorting through an inherited coin collection into a moment that reshapes a family's financial trajectory for years to come. These values represent documented auction or collector sales where applicable and are never guaranteed, as the numismatic market responds to conditioned scarcity, collector demand, and the emotional intensity that rare error coins generate among competitive bidders. Before any transaction involving a potentially valuable Montana quarter, collectors should carefully verify weight using a calibrated precision scale, confirm metal composition through non-destructive testing methods, evaluate strike quality through magnified examination of design details and field luster, assess rim characteristics for uniformity and proper reading, and inspect all letter inscriptions for evidence of true double die doubling versus mechanical doubling. While strongly recommending professional authentication by PCGS, NGC, or ANACS with specific error attribution before any purchase or sale. With these principles firmly established, collectors and dreamers should remain alert and attentive, because the next coin we examine carries a secret so unexpected and so valuable that it remained hidden in plain sight for years before a single moment of sharp-eyed recognition unlocked a fortune. Last coin, the 2018 United States quarter dollar from the America the Beautiful series, featuring the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore in Wisconsin, entered circulation on April 9 of that year as the 42nd release in a program that had been quietly producing some of the most beautiful and collectible modern American coins since its inception in 2010. The reverse design depicts a kayaker paddling across the tranquil surface of Lake Superior, with the iconic sea caves of Devil's Island rising in the background, their sculpted sandstone arches and chambers carved by centuries of wave action and winter ice. Created by United States Mint Artistic Infusion Program designer Richard Masters and sculpted by Mint engraver Renata Gordon, the composition captures a moment of serene solitude that feels almost meditative in its stillness, a striking departure from the dynamic wildlife and dramatic landscapes that dominate many other coins in the series. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint, with circulation production divided between the first two and collector proof and silver proof versions emerging from the third, the Apostle Islands quarter arrived at a moment when public attention had largely drifted away from the America the Beautiful program, and most Americans who received one in change would have noted the unusual design, perhaps admired it briefly, and then spent it again without a second thought, never suspecting that certain examples of this quietly beautiful coin carry secrets worth thousands of dollars to the right collector. The minting context surrounding the Apostle Islands quarter is particularly noteworthy because 2018 represented a transitional period for the United States Mint in terms of production technology, quality control protocols, and the increasing integration of automated inspection systems that were designed to catch errors before coins left the facility. Philadelphia produced approximately 165,600,000 circulation strikes, while Denver contributed roughly 172,400,000. Numbers that reflect a deliberate reduction from the massive output levels of earlier years in the series, as the Federal Reserve's vault inventories had grown sufficient to meet commercial demand without aggressive new production. San Francisco struck both standard copper-nickel proof coins and silver proof versions containing 90% fine silver, with the latter weighing approximately 6.25 grams compared to the standard clad versions 5.67 grams, and both proof types were sold directly to collectors in protective packaging that preserved their pristine surfaces. The reduced production volumes and enhanced quality monitoring at all three facilities meant that genuine errors became statistically less common than in earlier years of the program, and this scarcity of anomalies has paradoxically increased the desirability and market value of the errors that did escape detection, creating a dynamic where a coin that looks perfectly ordinary to the untrained may harbor characteristics that place it among the most sought-after modern quarters in the entire numismatic marketplace. Visual examination of the Apostle Islands quarter reveals layers of artistic and technical detail that reward patient study in ways that casual observation completely misses, beginning with the kayaker figure itself, which under 5 to 10 power magnification displays individual paddle strokes, water droplets frozen in midair, and texture on the kayak hull that varies measurably between early die-state strikes and coins produced from worn, deteriorating dies. The sea caves of Devil's Island, rendered as a series of arches and recesses along the right side of the reverse, present an extraordinary challenge to the mint's engraving capabilities, and the success with which these architectural features in stone were translated to a coin surface, barely 1 inch in diameter, represents a genuine achievement in numismatic artistry. The water surface beneath the kayaker, composed of fine horizontal lines meant to suggest the glassy calm of Lake Superior on a windless morning, serves as a diagnostic field for evaluating strike quality, as weak strikes from tired dies will show these lines as indistinct and merged, while full-strike early examples display them as crisp, individually discernible elements. The inscriptions Apostle ISLANDS, Wisconsin, 2018, and EPLURIBUSUNUM, each carry their own diagnostic potential, with letter formation, serif definition, and spacing all serving as indicators of die age, strike pressure, and the overall quality of the individual specimen. Rarity within the Apostle Islands quarter population operates on multiple levels simultaneously, and understanding these layers is essential for anyone hopping to identify a potentially valuable example hidden among ordinary coins. At the most basic level, survival in pristine uncirculated condition is the first filter, and the vast majority of the more than 338 million circulation strikes produced between Philadelphia and Denver entered commerce immediately, subjected to the mechanical violence of modern cash handling that scarred surfaces, flattened details, and stripped away original mint luster within days or even hours of leaving the Federal Reserve distribution pipeline. Among the small fraction that survived in gem uncirculated condition, the subset achieving MS-67 or higher certification from major grading services is remarkably thin, and MS-68 examples are so rare that population reports from PCGS and NGC combined may show fewer than a dozen known specimens across both mints. The silver-proof versions, protected by their original government packaging, have survived in higher proportions, but even among these intentionally preserved coins, perfect PR70 examples with deep cameo contrast and absolutely flawless surfaces represent an elite tier that commands significant premiums, and the intersection of perfect grade with unusual characteristics such as die cracks, chips, or striking anomalies creates a category of coin that is genuinely one of a kind. Notable errors and mint anomalies documented on the 2018 Apostle Islands quarter represent the most thrilling and potentially lucrative dimension of this coin story, and the varieties that have surfaced since its release have generated genuine excitement among error specialists who specialize in late-period America the Beautiful issues. Off-center strikes have been confirmed at various percentages, with minor shifts of 5 to 8% being collectible but relatively modest in value, while dramatic examples exceeding 25% off-center with visible date, mint mark, and full kayaker design are genuinely rare and have drawn spirited bidding at specialized error auctions. Wrong planchet errors, where the Apostle Islands design was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, have been documented with particular attention to examples struck on dime planchets, which produce a visually arresting coin with the full Lake Superior scene compressed onto a dramatically undersized disc that barely accommodates the central design elements. Struck through errors, where foreign material such as grease, metal shavings, or cloth fibers became trapped between the die and planchet during striking, have created coins with missing or distorted portions of the design that range from barely noticeable blemishes to dramatic voids, where major design elements like the kayaker or sea caves are partially or completely obliterated, and these anomalies carry value that scales directly with the visual drama and the condition of the surviving coin. Double die varieties on the Apostle Islands quarter have generated particular collector interest because they represent errors that can be identified by observant hobbyists searching through ordinary circulation finds, creating the possibility that a valuable example could be discovered in a bankrolled quarter bag purchased at face value, or in a jar of accumulated change sitting on a kitchen shelf. The most carefully studied double die variety on this issue appears on the reverse, where elements of the kayaker and the surrounding inscription show evidence of secondary hubbing impression offset from the primary design, visible as separated outlines on the paddle, the kayak hull, and the vertical strokes of Wisconsin when examined under magnification. True double die characteristics, where the doubling originates in the die itself through misalignment during the hubbing process, must be carefully distinguished from mechanical doubling, which results from die movement during the strike and produces a flatter, less distinct shelf-like appearance that is far less valuable to collectors. Additional varieties that have attracted attention include die cracks propagating from the rim through the sea cave arches, die chips appearing as small raised nodules on the water surface or within the inscriptions, and lamination errors where thin layers of the clad surface have separated due to manufacturing impurities in the planchet stock, each carrying its own distinct appeal and market value depending on severity, location, and the overall condition of the host coin. The emotional weight of the Apostle Islands quarter's hidden value potential becomes vividly real when considered through the lens of stories that have emerged within the collecting community. Stories of ordinary people whose lives were changed by a moment of curiosity and attention that most of us would never think to apply to a coin received in everyday change. There is the well-circulated account of a retired postal worker in Minnesota who purchased a box of quarter rolls from her local credit union in 2019 as part of a casual hobby of searching for interesting designs. Noticed that one coin felt slightly lighter and smaller than the others, held it up to the light, and saw that the Apostle Islands design was clearly visible, but the coin was dramatically undersized. And ultimately learned through a chance visit to a local coin shop that she had found a genuine wrong planchet error struck on a dime blank, a discovery that translated into an auction result sufficient to fund a long-postponed trip to visit her grandchildren in Oregon and establish a modest emergency fund she had never been able to build. Equally affecting are the quieter stories that surface in online collecting forums, accounts from individuals who describe handling a coin that looked slightly unusual, weighing the decision to keep it or spend it, and choosing to spend it on a fast food meal or a parking meter, only to discover months or years later through a YouTube video or a chance conversation that the odd-looking quarter they dismissed in a split-second decision could have been worth more than their monthly rent. These narratives of overlooked opportunity and unexpected fortune are not merely entertaining anecdotes, but serve as a genuine motivational force within the collecting community, inspiring thousands of people to examine every quarter that passes through their hands with a level of attention and care that transforms an ordinary daily routine into a quiet treasure hunt. When the conversation turns to documented values, the Apostle Islands quarter reveals a spectrum of collector and auction outcomes that surprises nearly everyone who encounters it for the first time, beginning with minor errors and modest varieties that have been documented at results between $900 and $2,000, sums that for many households represent a month of utilities, a needed car repair, or a long-deferred medical copayment. Unusual misstrikes, including moderate off-center examples and struck-through errors with visible design disruption, have reached approximately $3,000 at documented auction sales, while premium high-grade examples, particularly MS-68 certified specimens from early die states with exceptional strike definition and pristine original surfaces, have achieved results near $3,500 in competitive bidding among series specialists. Strong mint state error coins, including high-grade wrong planchet strikes and combination errors featuring multiple anomaly characteristics on a single specimen, have been documented at auction outcomes approaching $5,000, and rare misstrikes, including dramatic broad strikes with full rim expansion and collar die failures that produced coins with significantly expanded diameters, have reached approximately $6,000. Extraordinary collector examples, including silver proof coins with verified striking anomalies and perfect PR70 certification, have achieved results near $6,500, and exceptional or one-of-a-kind documented discoveries, including coins with full provenance tracing to original mint error identification, certification by premier grading services with specific error attribution, and documented appearance in major numismatic auction catalogs, have reached up to $9,000, a figure that for most Americans represents a genuinely life-changing discovery, the kind of windfall that transforms a routine evening of coin searching into a family story that will be retold for generations. These values represent documented auction or private sale results where applicable and are never guaranteed, as the numismatic market responds to conditioned scarcity, collector demand, and the emotional intensity that rare error coins generate among competitive bidders. Before any transaction involving a potentially valuable Apostle Islands quarter, collectors should carefully verify weight using a calibrated precision scale, confirm metal composition through non-destructive testing, evaluate color for natural tunning consistent with age and storage, check strike alignment by rotating the coin between obverse and reverse, assess rim characteristics for uniform reading and proper diameter, and inspect all letter inscriptions under magnification for evidence of true double die doubling versus mechanical doubling, while strongly recommending professional authentication by PCGS, NGC, or ANACS with specific error attribution before any purchase or sale. If you have enjoyed this journey through the hidden world of ordinary coins carrying extraordinary secrets, please subscribe to our channel so you never miss a future episode. Because as we have seen again and again, genuinely valuable treasures can still be found in everyday pocket change, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the curiosity and patience to look closely and recognize what others have overlooked. And that brings us to the end of today's video. So until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that the next remarkable discovery could be sitting in your change jar right now.